It is Thursday lunchtime. It's Jim White, it's Simon Jordan, and it is Spencer Oliver. And we're live on talkSPORT as we talk boxing, as we always do at this particular time in the week. And let me tell you guys, bare knuckle boxing returns to talkSPORT this Saturday night. This Saturday we have live bare knuckle boxing over on the talkSPORT Boxing YouTube channel. Former heavyweight boxer Lucas Brown is making his bare knuckle debut on the card, which is live from Bristol. I'm delighted to say we're going to be joined now by a gentleman who, one-time fighter, of course, of considerable repute. But he himself has got a bare knuckle boxing appointment very soon. In fact, in Leeds on October the 18th, when he's going to be taking on a man by the name of Tyler Goodjohn. Let's go all the way. We've been down under with Jai Opetaia, and that was eventful. Let's go all the way to New Jersey in the US of A and join Paulie Malignaggi. Paulie, how are you?
I'm all right, guys. How's it going? Good to be on.
Great, mate. Great to see you. You're outside enjoying some fresh air. The same Jai Opetaia joined us live a few moments ago, Paulie, and he turned the air blue with some of his language. We know we can trust in you.
I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm past that age already.
Good to speak to you. Listen, is this thing catching fire as we think it is? Bare knuckle boxing. Lucas Brown in action on the event that's coming up on the talkSPORT Boxing YouTube channel, and that's from Bristol here in the UK. And then you're in action soon over here too.
Yeah. I think it's not only catching fire, but I think it's also something that I think the modern fight fan really enjoys and appreciates because, you know, let's face it, pro boxing is obviously the gentleman's sport. Has been around a long time, and it is. I don't think it's going anywhere. I mean, I have to say that's how I buttered my bread for a long time. But if you notice, bare knuckle boxing, we live in a time with technology, everything is so fast. It's instant gratification, touch screens and swiping and scrolling. And I'll compare it with the fighting here, bare knuckle fighting. There's no feel out rounds in bare knuckle. You get straight to it right from round one, right? I mean, right from round one, if you notice a lot of the fights, there's no feel out round because any little punch can cut you, any little punch can bruise you. So you don't really have a chance for a feel out round in this sport. You know, things get right to the action. And it's just like the modern fan, the modern human being appreciates their life, instant gratification. They don't want to wait to break into the fight. They want the fight to start and enjoy themselves right away. And I think that is part of the reason. That psychology is part of the reason why bare knuckle fighting has sort of had this resurgence in the last decade. And little by little, it's getting to that big popular stage now.
Paulie, you had an incredible boxing career, winning world titles at 2 weights, and you had a long career as well. I understand this BKB and I understand the discipline that it is. It's a different combat. But why would you want to take part in it yourself? Like, what is the reasoning behind you going into it yourself?
There's several reasoning. One is the BKB has done a lot for me. I'm one of their pundits, and I've been one of their pundits for several years. They hired me at a time where, let's face it, there was a little bit of blackballing out there for me. It had happened to me with Showtime. It had happened to me with Sky in the UK. So I think that having companies like BKB, which at the time was BYB, and since then we've merged with BKB and become a bigger company overall. Having BKB, give me that opportunity. Also with ProBox TV, which I still currently work with as well. I think these two companies are really companies that really are dear to my heart because they were there at a dark time in my life. So I think giving it a chance to grow even stronger with the name recognition I can bring to it is one of the things that made me make the decision to do it this way. Also, we live in a time where a lot of things are expensive and life gets in the way, right? I at this point in my life, I live in America and I'm like, man, I would just love to be able to move back to Sicily. And I told my friends and family, I think I can make a plan here. I think if I win a few fights, I can come back, win a few fights. I can actually pay off some mortgages here. I'm a little bit spoiled. Call me spoiled, call me whatever you want, but I don't want to get rid of what I've got in America to move back to Sicily, But I'd like to keep what I got in America and move back to Sicily. So I don't know. Maybe I want my cake and eat it too. But if I can win some fights in BKB, I'll really make a little run here. I think I can be able to have my cake and eat it too. But we'll see. We'll see how that goes. You know, obviously that's a big thing. And then lastly, you know, Spencer, it's just the opportunity to do this one last time. You know, being in my mid 40s, it's one last opportunity, because I think if you pass this age, past this mid 40s age, I think your body starts to really eventually take a downturn. Not that you can't be healthy and be older, but you can't be healthy enough to be a pro athlete and be older once you pass this stage. So I was also one of those things where it's like, I'm at the point in my life where if I'm going to make one last decision to do this before the ship has to sail completely, I have to do that right now. So it's, I think those three things, it was a combination of those three things. It's funny because I've heard opinions on all of them, and I can't say anyone is right in particular, you know, or anyone is wrong in particular, but I think it's a combination of those three things.
Paulie, your legacy is cemented in the boxing ring, you know, well respected there, and you're a well respected commentator as well. You know, if we look at recent names that have gone back into the BKB or bare knuckle boxing, whatever it is, that were former boxers, you're talking about Frankie Gavin, who was a former world amateur champion, but done well as a pro as well. He got knocked out in like 20 seconds. Hannah Rankin had a horrible knockout. She's a 3-time world champion as well. And you just go, why would you put your legacy on the line going back in at a stage where you go, you're not going to have improved from when you retired as a boxer, you know, a few years ago. You're now mid-40s. Why would you put that reputation on the line?
You know, Spencer, that's a great question, you know, and those are really some really good comparisons. But I don't think that they apply here, because I did a form of bare knuckle a few years back, and I felt like I boxed pretty well. It's just I broke my hand, and I didn't really get to show the entire repertoire. I ended up having to fight the majority of that fight with one hand. And I felt that even one-handed, I probably deserved that decision anyway. So I felt like really the fan base in bare knuckle hasn't seen the full potential regardless, right? Because you haven't seen me with two hands. And obviously, if I'm able to fight pretty well one-handed, imagine what I can do in a two-handed fight where I start to get my timing down and so on and so forth, you know? So I think that for sure there's a part of the population that probably thinks they're going to expect to see what they're going to expect to see, but they don't. They don't, because when you get me with two hands, I'm a different person.
Yeah.
As with any fighter, I think, for that matter. But you have to be intelligent enough to understand that kind of simple logic. Secondly, when it comes to Gavin and Anna Rankin, you know, no disrespect to them. I feel like I was always a higher level than fighters like that anyway. And I think, you know, when you look at some of the other fighters that have fought in bare knuckle in general, come back to this kind of sport in general, you know, there's been some former boxers who've had very successful runs, you know, either in BKB or the rival network, you know, or the rival company, you know. So I think that, you know, there's boxers that do a really good job. Yes, I have a legacy. Yes, I mean, there's a history there where I'm a little bit more recognizable, but there's certainly good boxers that are even assigned to BKB that are very, very capable, and they've shown their boxing to be very, very capable.
I think, Paulie, you're very recognizable in that part of the world, are you not? You're sitting there in a park in New Jersey with your hood up, hoping not to get recognized. Listen, I tell you what we'd love to do is we're going to have a quick break, and then we'll come back to you, because there's a bunch of things we want to get into, not least the super fight. Canelo Crawford on the way. Paulie, stay with us. At the moment, we're in conversation, we being Jim White, Simon Jordan, Spencer Oliver, in conversation with Paulie Malignaggi, one-time fighter, soon to be again bare knuckle fighter. Paulie sitting chatting to us in a park in New Jersey, live on talkSPORT. Before Paulie, you rejoin us, before we get into the reasons why, who do you take to win this upcoming super fight, days away now? Crawford or Canelo?
It's interesting because I think that the only dynamic that makes this fight competitive, in my opinion, is the difference in weight class. I think Canelo has been for a while a diminishing fighter. Call it age, call it whatever other things you want to call it. But I just think that, you know, the only reason he's even still around at this level is because he's avoided his top contenders in his weight class, so he's been able to still remain champion at that weight class. And now, being champion at that weight class, it has sort of brought up this big opportunity to fight a smaller, excellent world champion in Terence Crawford. So I think when it comes to the levels of boxing, just straight from boxing perspective, I think Crawford is head and shoulders above Canelo. But, you know, they do make weight classes for a reason. Canelo is still very strong. He's a good body puncher, and he's a bigger guy naturally. So that does bring a bit of a risk to the table. I think Crawford can win the fight. I just wonder whether he can get a decision. That's always the question with Canelo, right? Can Canelo get a decision? I mean, can Crawford get a decision over Canelo? Can anybody get a decision over Canelo? We know Bivol did, but Bivol essentially won a 10-2, 11-1 fight, and they barely gave it to him.
Yeah,
maybe
good point. Good point. Here's Spencer.
So that's
Paulie, there's a lot made of, jumping up 2 weight divisions. We saw Sugar Ray Leonard do it against Marvin Hagler, and the greats can actually do that, can't they? And when you see them head to head, actually, Terence Crawford, he's filled out very, very well. And you're right, if it comes down to just weight divisions, because I think that Terence Crawford is head and shoulders above, as does Simon as well when it comes to boxing IQ and ring craft. But I go, when you look at it, and we're all talking about the weight division, that could be the factor. I don't see it being a factor.
Over the course of 12 rounds, I think it can be. If this is not like a street fight where it lasts a couple of minutes and then you're done anyway. Over the course of 12 rounds, I think it can be. But where I do agree with you, Spencer, is can Canelo track down Crawford in a way where he makes it physical, he makes it a bit tougher physically, and that's where I start to wonder. Okay, Crawford's boxing IQ may be so superior that it could be a different level, and it could affect him in a positive way, and Canelo may not even really be able to get to him, and that's where you start to think, okay, Crawford's boxing IQ may make it to another level. So we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. I think Crawford's a better boxer.
You think Crawford's a better boxer? Simon, a brief one on this with Paulie before we leave.
Oh no, I agree with a lot of what Paul said. But I was going to ask you, Paulie, when you made the observation about Alvarez ducking people, who are you talking about? You talking about Benavidez?
Benavidez and Morrell, specifically, namely. But throughout his career, I felt like he always ducked the top guys in his weight classes. When Jamal Charlo was Jamal Charlo, and I'm not talking about the current Jamal Charlo, he was his mandatory at 160 pounds. Golovkin fought everybody except Charlo at 160. There was also a time where Demetrius Andrade was very, very dangerous and a very, very good fighter. And Canelo made like Demetrius Andrade didn't sell anywhere. But then he decided to fight Rocky Fielding or even Avni Yildirim, who also were completely unknown outside of wherever they were from. So I do think there's a bit of hypocrisy, and I get some criticism for it. But I do think there's been a bit of hypocrisy about Canelo. I also think that, he likes to fight smaller guys. I think of guys like Josecito Lopez, for example, who he fought years ago at 154 pounds. Josecito was a blown-up 140-pounder. Again, he'll avoid the biggest guys. He'll actually do what he blames Benavidez doing, which is, quote unquote, being a weight bully. He'll do that to other guys and actually bring them up in weight. I think he's doing that again here with Crawford. I think that's the only reason this fight is even an interesting fight, is because, it's not really a matter of their boxing. I think Crawford's head and shoulders above him. It's just a matter of does Crawford's boxing ability overcome the weight disability.
Post-fight, what do the winners and losers do?
What
Post fight?
I think if Canelo has to win, he's gonna have to cut off the ring, be pressure, and bring the fight to Crawford and trap him. To offset that, Crawford has to box and use his legs, but he can't run. He's got to box. If you start moving too much, you're gonna wind up in flight and you're gonna risk getting fatigued. I think one advantage Crawford has is he's a two stance fighter. He can fight at a right-handed stance, he can fight at a left-handed stance, and he's very, very slick out of both stances. And he's very, very deceptive out of both stances. I know Canelo has some good sparring partners that also switch in camp. I've heard he's got Darrell Valsaint in there, who's a very good prospect that I've seen fight several times. He's also got Jaron Boots Ennis, obviously. But Crawford has been sparring with Lester Martinez, who's got a great fight on the undercard, against Christian Mbili on the same card, So their preparation, I think, is up to par.
Yeah.
Hopefully the fight lives up to it. But I'm looking more forward to the undercard. I'm looking forward to a Callum Walsh against Fernando Vargas Jr., and I'm looking forward to the aforementioned Lester Martinez fighting Christian Mbili. I personally am more excited about those fights.
And Paulie, as Simon was asking, after this fight, Crawford and Canelo, what happens with both of them? Retirement?
Oh God. I mean, I pray to God I don't have to deal with Canelo taking on second-rate opposition again, like he's been doing, and just keeping belt hostages. So I do hope that it's better for boxing if Crawford beats him, and Crawford retires and vacates the titles, and then they become up for grabs in a very good 168-pound division where a lot of fighters probably are deserving of title shots and have not gotten them,
Okay.
If Canelo wins, though, I fear he'll go for somebody like another novelty fight, like a Chris Eubank Jr. fight or something like that, and just, waste a real boxing fan's time.
Paulie, Canelo's not on your list of favourite sportsmen, is he?
No, because I think when you have that kind of name, you have a responsibility to make things, the best for boxing, and I think he just looks out for Team Canelo instead of Team Boxing, and at a certain point, it is about money, but he's made so much money already. He really has a responsibility to help the sport, and he's doing anything but that. People like him are the reason people complain about boxing and say, "Oh, this is why MMA became more popular." Not to say that I have a competition with boxing and MMA, but those people have a point. In boxing, the best fights a lot of times don't get made, and people think of the biggest names possible when they think about that. And a guy like Canelo Alvarez has behaved exactly that way. David Benavidez was a mandatory for years.
That's right.
And he just kept avoiding him.
The bigger question in all this, Paul, is how can any broadcaster blackball you from broadcasting, given the fact you fill airtime like no one I've ever seen?
He's absolutely magnificent.
Yeah, I don't know, man. That's for them to understand and wonder. But for
Paulie,
me,
we love having you on, mate. We absolutely love having you on. Good luck with your return to bare knuckle boxing in Leeds on October the 18th against Tyler Goodjohn. And who knows what you pick up there, and thereafter you might just get that farmhouse in Sicily, mate.
I hope so, man. I look forward to getting there next month.
Good luck, Paulie. Paulie Malignaggi with us there. You're right, Simon.
But he's just brilliant content. And you can just sit back. We've had Paulie on Talk Boxing a few times. You just go, I can talk. But there's a masterclass going on here. Yeah. And what the content you're getting, it's unfiltered, it's thought through, it's encyclopedic, it's insightful, and it's brilliantly delivered. And it
could be you, really, couldn't it?
No, in his field, when he talks about boxing, it is first class,
isn't it? Another level.
It's another level.
Is, yeah. Before we let you go, about Canelo Crawford next week. It is an intriguing matchup, and you're pretty well placed to tell us how you see it going. So how do you see this one turning out?
Man, I have mixed feelings. I have mixed feelings, and emotionally, I'm very happy that the fight is happening because it's a great fight for both fighters. Initially, I thought maybe Canelo didn't have the hunger to go out there and really try to keep Bud off him or try to go at Bud, When I heard he had Jordan Ennis in camp, it made me realize that he really is trying to prepare for Bud because Jordan Ennis is probably the only other person that can really logically and realistically fight left-handed or right-handed, which is what he's going to see from Bud. That lets me know that Canelo's taking it serious. If Canelo's taking it serious, it's going to be a much harder fight for Bud than I anticipated. I still think Bud has the skill to beat anybody on any night, but so does Canelo. So this makes it a much more intriguing fight for me. It's hard to really pick a winner now. I was kind of leaning more toward Bud in the beginning, but now I see that Canelo's taking it really serious. It's a little bit harder because Canelo has been at that weight for some time. Bud's just not coming to that weight. So Canelo is comfortable in the weight. Bud is comfortable in the ring. That being said, it's just going to be who can be most comfortable that night. And I don't know who that's going to be right now.
It's going to be intriguing. Well, Roy, it's lovely to talk to you. Appreciate your time and enjoy that gold medal. It's a lovely story. Thanks very much.
And thank you guys for having me. I love coming over to the UK. I enjoy you guys at talkSPORT. And what's up, Spencer?
Take care. Thank you, Roy.
Thanks, Roy.
Roy Jones Jr. there. Our thanks to him. Now, this Saturday, rising Bret and Olympic silver medalist Pat McCormick faces seasoned Mexican Miguel Parra for the WBA Intercontinental Welterweight title showdown, and you can watch that only on DAZN.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.